Well, hello there, and welcome to my Almost Midlife Crisis, the show that dives into that tricky time in our lives when we're no longer young, but we aren't old yet either. I'm your host, Jennifer Villamel. It's now been a couple months since I've had a job, and I have to say, I'm actually starting to allow myself to enjoy it a little bit. But a big part of that is because I know this is a temporary situation. As part of my journey to figure out what the heck is next in my career, I have hired a career coach to help me figure out my options, not only within the advertising field, but potential other career paths that my skills would translate. So, if you've ever had a difficult time figuring out what's next and you didn't know where to start, or maybe you considered hiring a career coach, then this one's for you. Let's dive in. First, I'm sorry, I have to admit, it feels kind of great not to be working right now. Like, sorry, not sorry. I have been consistently working since I was 15 years old, since I was legally able to work in the state of Illinois. I took one semester off my first year of college, and that was purely because my parents wouldn't allow me to work because they wanted me to focus on school. But jokes on them, I focused on going to parties instead. That was actually my worst GPA that I've ever had in my life. But other than that, I have consistently had a job. And I never took that time after college. Like I never took a break. I never took a sabbatical. And so here I am post college, 18 years into my career, taking a much needed and probably well deserved break. Not probably, well deserved break. At first, because I was laid off and I was not expecting the break, I was feeling a lot of guilt. Just like a lot of guilt sitting in there. Guilt for not having a paycheck like coming in because like many elder millennials, my boomer parents always instilled in me the importance of earning a steady paycheck. Got to earn that steady paycheck and you got to do what it takes to make sure you're paying the bills and earning that paycheck, which is, listen, it's a good lesson. It's important. It's an important one in life. But I also had guilt for putting that added burden on my husband because while he has been super supportive, I've also been financially independent since I was 21 years old. And honestly, depending on another just makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to have to do that. I want to be able to take care of myself. And one of the most surprising feelings is guilt for just purely having free time. Now, I've long been aware that our culture is one that celebrates being quote unquote busy. It's like this constant competition, like who can be more busy? And people love to share how busy they are too. Like, you know it. You know those people that like wear being busy like a badge of honor. You know them in the workplace because they're those people that will send the emails at 9 p.m. or send them on a Sunday. And everyone's like, ugh, like Jessica sends another like 5 emails on a Sunday, of course, because she's like so busy. And then when they come in on Monday, you're like, hey, how was your weekend? And they're like, oh my God, I had so much to do. I just was so busy, so busy. Like, oh my God, that it's so annoying to hear people talk about how busy they are. Like, you're as busy as you want to be, really. I mean, yes, you have things you have to do, but if you're that stressed out about everything you have to do, like maybe think about, does everything absolutely have to be done at that exact moment? But it doesn't matter. People just love it. They just love to talk about how busy they are because having free time is considered a luxury, right? Because that's where we are in the US. Like free time is a luxury, not like in Spain where you literally have a siesta in the middle of the day where everyone stops working and just like enjoys a couple hours in the afternoon. If someone has too much free time here, it's considered lazy. So now that I'm not working, I obviously have more free time. And yeah, you know what? This podcast actually takes up at least 1 to 2 days a week of like quote unquote work hours. But other than that, my time is pretty much my own. And at first, I kept myself as busy as a job would. Like, even though I wasn't clocking in and out, I was finding enough to do to keep myself busy for the whole day. Like, from the time I woke up to the time like Christian would come home from work. And whether it was researching things for the baby, maybe planning our anniversary weekends, running errands or cooking, like I would wake up around 7:30 in the morning and I was busy until dinner time. And then the weather started to get nicer. And I realized that like most days I wasn't even leaving the house other than to walk my French bulldog Ginza. Like I was just stuck inside all day, keeping myself busy. And so in a conversation I had with Christian one night, he was like, you really need to, you should be like enjoying your summer. Like it's summer and you're going to be having a baby in October. Like you have this free time, like you should enjoy it. And you know what? He was right. Like not only had I never just taken time off, but this would be the last time I didn't really have a lot of responsibility before the baby came. When would be the next time I would be able to just wake up whenever I wanted and do what I wanted for a summer? Like, I mean, seriously, like for the rest of my life until I retire, like, is there going to be an opportunity for that to happen? Probably not. And next summer, we'll have this amazing little girl and I'll be working again and I'll have to create a schedule around the needs of others. But right now, well, right now is my time is still my time. Like the weather is finally nice outside and I can spend my days how I want to, not how I have to. So Christian was right. I should take advantage of that time. So the first thing I started doing was to just stop the internal talk. And you know that self-talk, like we are sometimes the harshest on ourselves, right? And we give ourselves a lot of crap and we don't give ourselves a lot of grace. So first I had to stop that internal self-talk that, I should be doing something, that feeling of like, I should be doing something right now. And instead I thought about my week in like 4 chunks. You have your morning, your afternoon, your night, and your weekend. And the reality is that I'm the only one I know that isn't working. So the reality is like during the day, it's not like I can call up a friend and go do something. But that didn't mean I couldn't have fun. So during the morning, I would be productive because that's honestly when I'm at my most productive time. Like everyone kind of has a flow on like when their brain and their body like works in a certain way. I read this really good article one time and it was like it splits you up. It was like a survey and it splits you up. I forgot what it was called, but it was like, are you a bear? Are you a dolphin? Are you I think it was like a wolf, or are you I don't know what the fourth one was, but there was like 4 animals you could be. And those animals maybe it was a lion, maybe. It might have been a lion. But so, and like over 50% of the population is bear. And I was also a bear. And bears are ones that are most productive, like in morning to like, around 4 or 5 p.m. And that is actually one of the reasons why work culture became 9 to 5, was because that was when most people were most productive. And then within that, you can kind of see when is the best time for you to brainstorm and when is the best time for you to take a break or read your emails or etc. So it was really interesting, but it's true. In the morning, I'm one of those people that I get out of bed and I get going. Like I'm pretty lucky when it comes to that. And so for me, the morning, I was like, that's when I'm at my most productive. So I might as well take advantage of that. Right. So in the morning, I do like my workouts, which I am still keeping up with 6 days a week, well into my second trimester. Thank you very much. And I even signed up for this July challenge in my Pilates studio to do 10 workouts a month. So still trying to like go strong on that area. And 10 workouts a month doesn't sound like a lot, but I do a Pilates class on a reformer machine and it's no joke, especially pregnant. So for 4 weeks, I do 2 to 3 classes to kind of be my strength classes for the week. And that really exhausts your muscles. And then outside of Pilates, I do Peloton cardio classes, mostly on the bike, or I'll do like outdoor power walking. And then after my workout, I spend the rest of the morning just getting shit done, right? Like some mornings, this means writing a podcast episode or recording one like this morning. And sometimes it means going to the grocery shopping or doing laundry or running errands or whatever needs to be done. I try to do that in the morning. And then I actually have, quite the morning routine at this point. I wake up, I feed Ginza, I have a protein smoothie, I practice some Spanish on my Duolingo app, I do a workout. I take a shower and then I eat breakfast and then I get shit done until lunch. And then after lunch, I use the rest of the afternoon just to try to do something fun. Like one day I took Ginza to the Montrose Dog Beach because, I mean, she loves the beach. And it's not even that she likes going in the water because that's definitely not it, but she likes like sticking her feet in. It's really cute. And then like sitting on a towel and just watching other dogs play in the water. She's a July baby, so I get it. I love the beach too, but one day I went kayaking on the Chicago River, which was, against Christian's wishes. He was like, you can't go kayaking by yourself. And I was like, why? Why can't I? And he's like, well, what if you fall in? And I'm like, really? I mean, especially the kayaks that you rent. Okay. Like if you've ever rented a kayak, you know that they are like really thick and stable and they are made for beginners. And I wouldn't consider myself a beginner kayaker. Okay. I think that's how you say it, kayaker. Like I know how to maneuver a kayak, and I've actually kayaked quite a bit, including multiple times on the Chicago River. But I will say, if you are a beginner, the Chicago River, at least the portion of it that's right downtown, you can actually go kayaking on like the northern end of it, and that's very calm and easy. But if you go right downtown in like the main river area and you have never really kayaked before, like I don't really know if that's where I would start, because it's actually more difficult than like a calm lake. You have this just ton of boat traffic, right? And like big boats, little boats, like tour boats, the water taxi, like pretty big boats that would just run you over. And there's also these currents you have to deal with that can be really challenging for a beginner. Like I don't really know, I don't honestly understand the purpose of them. But they have these like jets almost coming out from the sides that will push you into the middle pretty quickly, and you have to be able to like recover and get back to the side. But are people going to fall in? Most likely not. Like you might get run over by a boat if you don't know what you're doing, but you're probably not going to fall in. Like you would have to stand up to fall in for the most part. And if you're standing up on a kayak, then honestly, you deserve to get wet. So sorry. Like that's rule number one. You don't stand straight up in a kayak. But one day I also just took Ginza to the park and I sat in the shade and I read a book and I threw her the Frisbee for the afternoon. And you know what? It was lovely. Stopped and got a cookie because why not? And I really started to own my free time. Like I don't feel bad for having it anymore. And there are no apologies if I want to spend my morning or afternoon watching Wimbledon, because why not? I can't. Right? Like that's what I used to try to do during the workday, is like catch glimpses of a match. But no, like this year, Wimbledon, I watched almost all of it. And I'm going to take full advantage of this time that I have left where I'm not yet a mother with all of that additional responsibility, and I can just have fun. I mean, as much fun as you can have in the summer without drinking. But part of my to-dos during this time is trying to figure out what the heck is next for my career. So as part of collecting unemployment, I have to apply for jobs every single week to show that you're looking for jobs. And so I look at jobs on LinkedIn and job boards, but I don't know, nothing's really standing out to me. Like there's some interesting options, but I'm really just not sure what's next. And maybe that's because I don't know. Maybe I'm just not, I know I'm not looking to start a new job before the baby comes. So maybe I'm just like not in the headspace where I really want to apply to any of these things. Maybe it's because I'm still recovering from burnout. I don't know. I don't know how long it takes to cover, from 18 years of burnout. Maybe it's because I'm just not sure if I want to stay in advertising, or because I'm curious of what else is out there, but I'm not quite sure what skills I have that translate and what do they translate to. So with all this uncertainty, the one thing I'm sure of is what I want out of my next role when I go back. And I've been thinking about it a lot over the last couple months, because unlike other jobs I've taken, this next role will have an impact on more than just me and Christian. When I go back to work, hopefully like February or March, we have our baby girl to think about. And to be clear, I do not mean that I want to take a role that is part-time or not um or like considered a demotion because I'll be a new mom. Like that's not where I'm thinking. I worked really hard to get where I'm at and build my skill set to where it is. And it is not fair to me to go backwards because I chose to have a child. If I stay in advertising, I know the drill. Advertising is not a 9 to 5 job. It never has and it never will be. And I will have to work some weekends. I'm going to have to work some nights. I'm going to have some travel involved. And all of these instances mean that, like a lot of working moms, there will be times when I'm going to miss something. Like I'm going to disappoint her. She will be upset with me at some point for missing something. And you know what? Hopefully, I can be like my mom in this sense. My mom was a working mom. She was ahead of her time. And while she did miss some things, it did seem like she was always there for the times that really mattered. Like I was a busy kid. I was always playing some sport, and therefore my parents, if they were working, it was really hard for them to be at every single thing. Like take my cheerleading competitions, for example. Cheerleading is not only a sport for your kids, it's like a whole lifestyle. It takes up a lot of time of the day. And the competition days alone, I would be up before the sun came up. I would head to a teammate's house where the moms would be like all doing our hair in a very specific way because in competition, we all had to have the exact same hair, the same hairdo, the socks the same way, the shoes the same. If anything was different, we would actually get points deducted. And my mom usually wasn't the one to take me to my cheerleading competitions. That was usually my dad. So he would wake up, take me to the house and just like sit there engrossed in this like cloud of hairspray for hours waiting to even go to the competition. Then when we were all ready, we would head to some gymnasium where our parents would have to wait around in these like uncomfortable bleachers pretty much all day waiting for our 3-minute performance. And then they'd have to wait around for the additional hours for the trophy ceremony. But don't worry, there were refreshments that they could purchase, like half cold hot dogs or chips and pop sold by some students. And while I'm sure there were a million things that these parents could think of to do other than spend an entire Saturday in a stuffy gymnasium with techno music blasting in their ears and cheerleaders screaming for 8 to 10 hours, in a way, I think my dad kind of liked it because almost all of the parents were women. Maybe the other dads like figured out a way to get out of this responsibility. I'm not sure. I'm sure they thought of something like, oh, I need to cut the lawn or like some typically masculine chore that his wife had been up his ass about doing, but he waited until it enabled him to get out of the worst fate of him to oblige. With the lack of testosterone in the gym, my dad pretty much was the most popular kid in school, like surrounded by women just hanging on his every word. And they all just thought he was the best dad around. And probably because they couldn't get their husbands to come. So for them to see a man here instead of his wife, well, that was something special. And you mix this along with the fact that my dad has the uncanny ability to make friends with literally anyone. And he turned these 8 to 10 hours of a competitive cheerleading competition into his own campaign for world's #1 dad. And now that I'm going to be a parent, honestly, I think they could have treated our parents better at these competitions. If you're going to have refreshments, can they have some healthy options? Also, could they get a Bloody Mary or a mimosa or something? Like if my daughter chooses cheerleading, I hope this much has changed at least. I haven't been to one in a very long time, but I hope it's gotten better. And while my mom may have missed a lot of my cheerleading competitions, you know what? She never missed a birthday or graduation or some other event that I felt was critical to her being there. Like I don't look back at her absence as a negative like my brother. He still holds it against her. And I look ahead and I start to wonder why I didn't have the same reaction as him. Like why didn't I care or why wasn't I upset that she couldn't come to stuff? And then I remember take your kid to work day. Like, remember those? As an adult now, like some days those are really annoying because you just have like kids running around and you get like nothing done if you don't have a kid. And if you do have a kid, you probably definitely get nothing done. But my mom, she was an interior designer for Walter E. Smith, which is like a well-known high-end local custom furniture store in the Chicago area. And I loved going to her take your kid to work day. Like they always had activities for us to do, like coloring contests, or like one time they even had an animal petting situation in the parking lot where we held a boa constrictor, an actual like 8-foot boa constrictor where it took like 2 of us to hold up. And I had a tarantula crawl up my leg. If you wanted to, like they didn't make the kids do all of this, but these were like options you could do. And of course I was like all in on all of it. But most of all, I loved sitting in her office, just watching her work. I mean, it could be boring sometimes, and I'm definitely sure I complained. I loved seeing her just be so important to other people, like her phone ringing or people stopping by to ask her questions, her books of fabrics and like textiles laying all around as she was putting together a recommendation for a client. Plus, just like the elegance she possessed while doing all of this. Like, my mom has always been quite fashionable and beautiful, still is. And you could tell others around her really thought so as well, because she just commanded every room she walked into. That was my mom. Like, she was powerful, I should say is powerful, smart, accomplished, elegant, and just really inspiring to me when I was a young girl. And so maybe she missed sitting in the bleachers all day to see my performance, but she would always watch the VHS of it later that my dad recorded. And it wasn't that she wasn't interested, but her whole life didn't revolve solely around us kids. And I don't say that in a bad way at all. She had her career and also her hobbies, like playing soccer with her friends in an over 40 league, which at the time seemed so old to me. Like, I was like, how are these old women running around playing soccer? And now that I'm approaching the big 40, I realize that, of course, they could play soccer. Of course, they were young and they still had plenty of time. But at the time, it seemed old. So this admiration that I felt watching my mom work is what I want for my daughter. Maybe I won't be there for everything, but I will be there when it counts. And in the meantime, I want her to see me living a fulfilled life. I want her to see me with my own hobbies, with a career that I love, and with a social network that supports me, because I want the same thing for her when she's older. I may not know what my next title will be, but I know I have some requirements. I want a role that excites me. If I'm going to spend 8+ hours a day away from my baby girl, I want a role that fulfills this different part of me, that allows me to be creative, that challenges my mind on a daily basis, that continues to force me to grow and evolve, and a role that helps me gain new perspective. I want increased flexibility and some control over my schedule, so I never have to miss something that's really important to her. And ideally, I would like a hybrid work environment so I can be home some days when she gets home from school, and other days I can connect with colleagues in the office. I don't mind some travel, but honestly, probably not more than like 30% to make sure I'm not gone for too long of stretches. But I also get my airline status, so my family vacations are more enjoyable at the airport. That's important. And above all, I want to be passionate about my role. So when I do disappoint her, she sees that. She sees that I'm not missing it for some miserable job where I'm just there for the paycheck. The next step feels more than just another role. It needs to be something that's going to make the mommy guilt worth it, because I know it's coming. It's very well, it could be in advertising, but maybe it's not. And as I scroll through job listings with nothing really jumping out at me, I realize that I may need some outside help to figure out where to go next. So I had spoken to some colleagues in the business, but most of their advice was either to convince me to work with them again, or another aspect of advertising. And maybe that's where I'll end up. I don't know. But what if there's an opportunity to start something completely new? I only know what I know, and that's advertising, but I can't imagine my skills don't translate elsewhere. I decided to enlist a career coach to help me navigate this next chapter in hopes of getting clarity, just to help focus my search when I'm ready, but also give me perspective outside my industry and potential opportunities. I did do some research and I selected a firm in Chicago that is female owned because that's important to me and has a very good reputation. And I elected this package that includes me taking like a 3-hour evaluation test called like the Braxton Hicks or something. And then you meet with a coach to walk through your results and what are the opportunities, etc. So from there, I'm going to work with a professional resume writer that's going to help get my resume noticed, focus it for the best possible outcome, and help with my LinkedIn profile and cover letter to just highlight my strengths for the roles that I'm interested in. Because I realized that even though I've been working for so long, I've never really had to practice with my resume and cover letter writing. Every role I've ever had has come from people reaching out to me. I've never gotten a job from submitting a resume. And therefore, I've also never had to adjust my resume and cover letter for a particular role. So at this point in my career, I realize it's really important for me to highlight my skills in a way that stands out within my competitive set. And this is going to be even more important if I shift away from advertising, because I'll have to translate my skills to be relevant for the role. My goal is to work with a career coach and resume writer like in the summer and the early fall before the baby comes, which is mid-October if she's not early. And then I can focus on her through the holidays. Cause I mean, it's the holidays and I feel like, what are people really doing anyway? Like it's pretty slow from a marketplace standpoint anyway. So I can just kind of enjoy the holidays, figure out how to be a new time mom. I feel like, I'm going to be busy enough. And then in January, I can start to use that new resume and knowledge of what just roles that I want to go after. And I could re-enter the marketplace and start applying. And my hope is to get back to work mid-February or March, which would give me a full 3-month maternity leave that I would have expected from a role if I was currently working. And it also would mean that I would be without a role for almost a year. That is insane. Like, wow, how time flies. I can imagine I'm going to be ready to get back to normal adult life by then. Taking this time for myself allows me to enjoy the last summer before motherhood in a way that I never thought I'd be able to. I can focus on myself and my needs above all else for one more summer before I have a child to look after. It also gives me the headspace to really figure out what I want to do next. I realize my privilege in being able to hire an outside party to help me take this first step, and I am so thankful for that. I honestly think it's really going to help me build the confidence I need to take that next step. The confidence that not only that I'm going after the right role for me, but for my family. And what better time to do that than now, when I have the time and when I probably have the lowest level of stress I've ever had in my adulthood life. I may not have the answers yet, but it feels really great to take that first step to figuring it out. So now it's your turn. What can you do today to help you start to figure out your next step? Is it hiring a career coach? Or maybe it's just considering what about your role you love and looking for roles that offer the same aspects. That's one of the best advice that I ever got from a mentor of mine. They were like, don't worry about the title, don't worry about the role. What are the qualities of the role that you want? And look for other roles with that. Maybe it's reaching out to colleagues and getting a better sense of available opportunities, right? Through word of mouth. Whatever your next step is, take some time to consider what you want in a role. What qualities will make you happy? What do you need to make it all worth it? Try it. You never know where it's going to lead you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. Join me on my social channels to get more content and inspiration. You can follow My Almost Midlife Crisis on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can also check out my new YouTube channel with videos of the episodes and shorts to keep you entertained all week. Subscribe where you get your podcasts and make sure you are always up to date on the latest episodes by signing up to myalmostmidlifecrisis.com. Until next time.